Hey, my creative friends. It's Shannon from Shannon's Studio, here to talk about creative life and all things creative, things that we think about, things that we want to do different so we can have more time for creativity. And today I am I just feel super blessed, super privileged with the day that I've had. And it hasn't been anything I think that anybody else maybe would feel is that great. I mean, everybody would think it was nice, but it just really, for me, was more personal. Hey, Trisha. Trisha, didn't we go to the Carl Block exhibit at BYU, you, Raylyn, and I? I remember I have pictures, but I couldn't find it because I'm not at home and I don't have some of my pictures with me. But I'm pretty sure, I know we had a picture in front of a sign, and I'm pretty sure it was the Carl Block exhibition. So you'll have to tell me, and I hope it feeds through so I can see your answer. Yes, we did, Trisha says. I thought so. Well, today, I went to the Friedrichsburg Castle, Alan and Joseph and I. And in the Friedrichsburg Castle, there off the Royal Chapel, there is the King's Prayer Room. And inside the King's Prayer Room, there are 23 paintings that Carl Block did over the span of 14 years. And they're paintings that my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, uses often in their imagery because of how it's portrayed, how it portrays Christ's life. And they're just beautifully done. And so we see the images a lot in our curriculum. And I knew that they were there. And then Trisha and Raylyn and I went to that exhibit. I think I went a couple of times. Went to the exhibit and saw the paintings when they came to BYU in Utah. And I remember being so excited, and I actually wrote a post, and I put a link in on my Facebook page to the post that I did in 2010. So it was almost 9 years last month. It was 9 years last month because it was in September. So I did that post back then, and I kind of played with the title of the post, saying I would get to see Carl Block paintings from Denmark, Denmark paintings, like I was kind of going to be there, which at the time it was like, oh, I'll never be in Denmark. But I can play with the wording like I'm going to see, be in Denmark. But little did I know. Trisha says, the Pool of Bethesda is a permanent addition to the MOA. Yes, Museum of Art at Brigham Young University. And that painting is beautiful. And I actually, in the post that I linked in the Shannon Studio webpage, Facebook page, that link, I had to write a paper because I was in school at that point, I was in school, and so I don't know. When I was in school in between 2000 and 2005, I wrote the paper. I posted it in 2010, but it's about that painting, the Pool of Bethesda, and just some different perspectives about how I felt about it. So that's in that link too. But yes, that painting is beautiful. It's huge. It's huge. It takes up the whole wall. It is amazing. And I felt it was like a real privilege to be able to see that one too. And I think it was the fact that BYU was able to purchase it was amazing. And yes, anybody who's close to it should go see it. So I wrote this paper, never realizing ever in a million years that I would be in Denmark and I could see some of his paintings in person. And so I got to see those 23 today. Tricia says, big enough to step into the pool. Yeah, truly. It's like life size that you could actually feel like you could step into it. That's true. So today, the tip we're going to talk about, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about Carl Block and talk about the tip that I have from that. I think we all pick out artistic heroes, creative heroes that we like and that we aspire to be like. And sometimes we try their works, we see how they did it, because then that's the path that we see to be like them. And that's the way it was for Carl Bloch. In that link I told you I did a copy of Carl Bloch's painting to see how he might have done it. I mean, he's obviously not around, and so I couldn't ask him. And it's not like there were a lot of instructions left. And so I just tried his painting to see how I thought it might come out, because he painted in a traditional method, and it was a very good experience. And so he's been a hero of mine. I've always wanted to try to paint like him. And one of the things, when you have somebody that you look up to in their abilities, you study their works. You continue to see what they did that draws your attention and that you like. And one of the things that I've realized about his work is that, for me, I feel like he's a master of the moment, meaning he picks the perfect moment to paint. Because when you have a story and you know the story from beginning to end, it's hard to pinpoint the moment you want to take and immortalize, like in a freeze frame. And I think he really does that well. And I think, for instance, like when they're burying Christ and Christ is laying on the stone and they're just about to cover him up before they put him in the tomb. And then the one of him casting out Satan, and he's brought his arm sweeping up, but the look and the moment, it's almost in the picture, in the painting, Satan is falling backwards and he's almost out of the picture frame, and the look on his face is just perfect for that context. And and then there's the Peter one where he's on the steps, the cock has just crowed the third time, and Peter hangs his head and Christ is walking by. And so for me, it's always been, he has the perfect moment. He's the master of it. And one of my favorite ones is Elizabeth and Mary, where Elizabeth's on the stairs and she is throwing her arms open wide to greet Mary, who has just come, and she's had the Annunciation, so she knows she's pregnant. She hasn't told anybody, but Elizabeth announces to her in her joy that she's the mother of the Christ child. And that moment where I'm sure Mary has a lot of questions and she's uncertain about many things, and just having that moment where Elizabeth is her second witness that this is going to be happening, and the joy that is visually with Elizabeth. And so that moment that he picks for that painting, I've just always thought that's the perfect moment. So today, the room that is the prayer room that has the 23 paintings, the 23 paintings are only like, each painting's only like about 2.5 feet square, basically. And so they're not very big. His other paintings, many of his other paintings are monumental, like the one Tricia mentioned, the Pool of Bethesda. They're monumental. And so these are very small comparatively. And the room is very small. It's got to be probably no more than 15 by 18. And it's not a perfect square. There's a little bump out. And the room is very dark. It's, I'm sure when the sun comes up and it lights in the different side, but when we were there, part of it, you could hardly see the paintings because it was so dark on the one side. But it's just a small room. It's a very private room. It opens up onto the royal chapel, but it's up on the second floor, and so it's not one that people see. So as I walked in the room, because I could see one of the paintings as I was coming up, Woman of the Well, by the well. And so when I walked in and I walked around the corner, I saw the Mary and Elizabeth painting. And I was so I was struck that I had that intense of emotion that I started to cry. And I just thought to myself, I have thought about this painting before. I have had looked at this painting numerous times. I wanted to get it, and to be standing in front of it. Oh, it really did move me. It just was, and a few times that has happened to me, like twice. This is like the second time I can think of where a painting that I have thought about the artist and examined the work and found it not wanting, that when you see it in person, it just is something of a privilege. It's just a great privilege. And to think of, that person actually touched this, and he was in this room and he was doing these things. So it's just life sometimes just is really very interesting. And it made me think more. It made me think more of, we talk about manifestation. Some people do. And I believe it has its place. I believe a lot of times we get what we want. But I think manifestation is more about tell people what you want and tell it out to the world and those sorts of things. And I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying what I'm thinking of is a different manifestation. It's almost like your private dreams. Because it's always been a private dream of mine to see more Carl Bloch paintings. Hi, Joan. So it's always been a private dream. And I think sometimes we underestimate the private dream. The things we don't say out loud, the silent longings that we have, I think sometimes we underestimate those, that they aren't powerful. And I think they are. I think because that longing that I had to see more Carl Bloch paintings, and the idea that I could ever go to Denmark and see them in person, I never said that out loud because I never thought it was possible. But I always had this longing that if I ever had the chance, I would take it. And I think there's value in having those silent longings, those private dreams, because they're there and they're in your seedbed of your heart and mind, and that when you have opportunity, then you will take it. Yet if we never dream those kinds of dreams, if we don't have those kinds of heroes, if we don't have those kinds of, and I'm talking creatively right now, but it could be about anything, but if we don't have those secret things in our hearts that we don't say out loud, I don't think that they have a place to germinate and grow. So that when the opportunity comes along, or if things start to align, you are there to grasp hold and take it and just say thank you. So here there's something. Where did I get this quote? I'll have to look at. But it was talking about the research confirms that mental and real images motivate people by arousing their implicit motives. And implicit motives, I looked that up just so I can make sure I understood. So implicit motives mean implied rather than expressed. So your implied motives, your not expressed motives, your indirect motives, your absolute and unreserved motives, having those mental pictures and real pictures will motivate you. Because I've had these pictures that I would take any chance I could get to see Carl Bloch paintings again, because I want to see what he did. There's value in seeing it in person as opposed to a photograph. For instance, the copy I made of the Carl Bloch painting, when I saw the original, I was like, oh my goodness, his original has more blue undertones, and it's totally different than what the photograph of the painting. So there's value in seeing the real thing. So, and I also like this word origin of implicit. The origin of the word comes from a variant of interwoven. And I just liked that because it's almost like our thoughts are interwoven with our desires and what life brings to us, and they work in different ways. So I don't want you to forget that mental and real images motivate people by arousing their implicit motives, their unspoken, unexpressed motives. So you may not be very demonstrative. You may not say, oh, I'm going to go do this one day. And that's okay. Some of us are that way. Some of us don't want to say what we really want deep down. But let it still be there in your heart that if you have that opportunity, you would take it. And you might be surprised at what things do happen. And I know it's not Sunday where I usually tie spirituality and creativity, but I am going to tie it in today because I really feel like the person who knows what you want when it's implicit, when it's unspoken, unexpressed, is God. He knows. He knows what I wanted. He knows what my heart is. And I really feel like he gave me this opportunity. And what a treat for me. And what a moving, like I said today when I walked in there, what a moving experience it was for me. And so that's the tip today. Have your implicit dreams. Have your private dreams, your silent longings. Have them. They're not terrible. You don't have to announce them to anybody. You don't have to make a show of it if you don't want to. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. There's value in still having them. There's motivation in still having them. So that's my tip. I had a great day. And tomorrow we're going to try to see if we can see a couple more Carl Block paintings and do a few more things in Copenhagen because we're kind of outside of Copenhagen. So that's my tip today. And remember, you have a creative heartbeat. So listen for it. And I will see you tomorrow.